We were at her father's lake house when the first real crack appeared. Like a breath on glass in the middle of winter, thin, easy to miss, but threatening everything underneath. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. Her father wasn't even there, just left us the keys and a list of rules scribbled in that stiff way old men write. Like every word cost him a dime. She said she wanted us to reset. That things had felt off, and maybe she was right. I'd noticed the silence between us stretching longer than usual. The type of silence you don't hear, but feel, like a weight in the room. We arrived late Friday. She unpacked in a hurry, barely spoke. She turned on music, something jazzy and obscure, and poured herself a full glass of gin. Neat. Not her usual. She hated gin. Said it tasted like Christmas trees and regrets. I mentioned that. She just blinked at me and said, "Maybe I've changed." There was no smile. I let it go. I gotten used to letting things go. Around midnight, she stepped outside to take a call. No coat, no shoes. Just stepped out onto the cold porch like she didn't feel a damn thing. I followed her after 10 minutes. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I swear. I just wanted to ask if she was okay. And then I heard it. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. Not in fear, in thrill. "I keep thinking we'll get caught," she whispered. "It's been a year." He still has no idea. Then silence. Pause so long I thought the call had dropped. Then a laugh, low, intimate, and completely wrong. "I don't care. If he finds out, he finds out. He's not the one I think about when I close my eyes anyway." I stood there frozen, just beyond the edge of the porch light, hearing my world split like wet wood. I couldn't move. I didn't want her to know I'd heard. Not yet. I needed more. I needed to know what I was dealing with because part of me, the stupid part, was already whispering excuses for her. Maybe it wasn't about me. Maybe it was a dream, a joke, a role play, something. And then came the name. "Sandra," she said. "You drive me insane. You're the only thing that feels real anymore." I stepped back into the dark. My heart wasn't racing, it had stopped. Sandra wasn't a stranger. Sandra was her stepmother. I went back inside, sat down on the couch, and stared at the dying fireplace. She walked in moments later, her cheeks flushed, breath shallow. She didn't see me right away. When she did, she flinched, just slightly, then forced a smile. "Still up?" she asked. I nodded. Couldn't sleep. She sat beside me, too close. Her warmth made my skin crawl. I pretended nothing was wrong. I asked her how her call went. She said it was her cousin, Marissa. Said she was going through something. I asked what. She blinked. Made something up about a breakup. I watched her lie so effortlessly it felt like she'd rehearsed it. Like lying to me was a language she'd grown fluent in. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't new. This wasn't the first lie. This was just the one I heard. But I didn't confront her. Not then. I needed more. I wanted to catch it red-handed. I wanted her to feel what I was starting to feel. Betrayal not as an idea, but as a living thing, breathing down your neck, rearranging the walls of your house. So I smiled. Said, "Hope Marissa's okay." She leaned her head on my shoulder and sighed. "She will be." The weight of her head made me nauseous. That night I didn't sleep. I sat up, lights off, staring at her back as she snored. Her spine looked foreign to me. Her body, the one I thought I knew better than my own, was suddenly the shape of a stranger's. But I had time. We had 3 more days at that lake house, and I was going to use every second to find out exactly who my wife really was. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. Made coffee, burned the toast, danced around the kitchen in that careless way she always did on Saturdays. Like the world owed her nothing and she owed it even less. She played a stupid song on her phone, something poppy and brain-dead, and tried to pull me into some lazy dance. I let her. My hands were on her hips while my mind replayed every word she said the night before. "You're the only thing that feels real anymore." She kissed me. Her lips still tasted like gin. I forced a smile, forced warmth into my eyes. If she suspected anything, she didn't show it. She kissed me again, longer this time, like she was marking her territory. It made my stomach twist. We spent most of the day pretending. She wanted to go for a walk around the lake, so I agreed. She pointed out birds, threw rocks into the water, complained about the cold. I listened, nodded, played my role. Inside, though, I was scanning everything, Her voice, her hands, her eyes, looking for any flicker of guilt, any hesitation. Nothing. She was flawless. Until the phone rang. She didn't answer it. She looked at the screen, her fingers twitching slightly, and hit silent. Then she turned it face down on the bench beside us and said it was just spam. I asked if I could see. She laughed like I was being ridiculous. Why would you want to see my spam? I shrugged. I'm curious. What kind of spam are you getting? She grabbed the phone before I could reach for it. Said something about needing to use the bathroom. Disappeared into the trees with it. She was gone for 10 minutes. When she came back, she was different. Colder. She said she wanted to head back early. Pack up. Go home that night instead of staying till Sunday. Said she forgot about something important. Wouldn't say what. I agreed, but not because I wanted to leave. I had already decided I was going to follow her. Back at the house, she was quiet. Barely looked at me. She moved through the space like a thief, gathering things in silence, eyes scanning corners. I played dumb, helped her pack, made jokes she didn't laugh at. We left around 6 p.m., but I didn't go home. I told her I had to stop by my buddy's place on the way back. A made-up friend. She didn't ask questions. I dropped her off at our apartment, kissed her cheek, told her I'd be back late. She barely nodded. Then I waited. Half an hour. An hour. At exactly 8:43 p.m., she left the building again. I followed. No disguise, no subtlety. I wanted her to see me if she looked back. I wanted the risk, but she never did. She got into a rideshare. I followed in my own car. She didn't go far. 15 minutes later, she was getting out on a quiet street I didn't recognize. It was lined with trees, old brick houses, streetlights too dim to matter. She walked up to one of them like she'd done it 100 times. The door opened before she even knocked. And standing there, in a silk robe the color of bone, was Sandra, her stepmother. She kissed her. Not a peck. Not a greeting. A kiss that was slow, familiar, deliberate. Their bodies melted together like puzzle pieces, like they had muscle memory of each other. I watched from down the street, in my car, with my hands trembling and my mind screaming. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't storm the house or take pictures or call anyone. I just sat there, watching. I sat there long enough for the lights to go off inside. Long enough to see the shadows move across the upstairs window. Long enough to understand this wasn't a one-time thing. This was practiced. This was rehearsed. This was her life, and I was just a prop she hadn't figured out how to throw away yet. When I finally drove home, I didn't feel anything. Not yet. I knew the real pain was coming. But before that, I wanted answers. I wanted to see how far she would go to protect the lie. I wanted to see if she would look me in the eye and spit in my face with another story. Because the confrontation was coming. And I wasn't going to go easy. I waited until Sunday night to confront her. Not because I was calm, I wasn't. I was holding a storm inside my chest so loud I could hear it in my ears. But I needed her to speak first. I wanted to see how many lies she'd stack before I tipped them over. I wanted to watch her build her version of reality, brick by fake brick, while I held the wrecking ball behind my back. She was on the couch when I walked in, barefoot, glass of white wine in hand, watching some garbage reality show. She looked up, smiled. That same smile I'd seen 1,000 times. The one I used to believe meant something. Now it looked like a mask she wore too long and forgot how to take off. "Hey babe," she said. "You were gone forever." "I stopped by Matt's," I said. He was in a mood. "Matt doesn't exist." She didn't even pretend to care. She patted the couch beside her. "Come sit. You missed the dumbest thing." This girl said, "I thought Europe was a country." "I swear to God." I sat. Not close. Just enough to see her face clearly. "How was your night?" I asked. She shrugged. "Boring. Caught up on laundry. Cleaned the fridge. Took a bath." Every word sharpened the blade. "No visitors?" She blinked. "Nope. No one at the door? No phone calls?" She hesitated. A fraction of a second. Barely noticeable. "Oh, yeah, Sandra called," she said. "She was checking in on Dad's birthday thing. I told her we might skip it this year." "And she didn't come by?" Now she looked at me. "No," she said slowly. "Why would she?" I stared at her, just long enough to make her uncomfortable. Her smile faltered. "You okay?" she asked. I'm trying to remember something, I said. Help me out. Last night, when I dropped you off, what did you do after I left? She tilted her head, frowning slightly. I told you. Laundry. Bath. Right? Because I thought I saw you on Elm Street, getting out of a car. She laughed. Too loud. Too fake. Why would I be on Elm Street? I didn't blink. You tell me. Her smile vanished. Are you checking up on me? Should I be? She stood, poured the rest of her wine down the sink. You know what? This is insane. I've been trying to make things better between us, and now you're accusing me of what? Cheating? On Elm Street. I stood too, not yelling, not shaking, just done with the game. I saw you. I followed you. I saw her open the door. I saw you kiss her. Upstairs. Lights off. I was there. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I know, I said. Everything. I know it's Sandra. I know it's been going on for at least a year. I heard you on the phone at the lake house. Silence. And then the mask cracked. Fine, she said. One word, sharp as glass. Fine. Yeah, fine. You saw what you saw. Congratulations. I waited for something. Shame, regret, an apology. But what I got instead was a smirk. A small, venomous thing. You want to play the victim now? She said. After all the ways you've failed me? After all the times I sat here pretending to be the perfect little wife while you turned into this boring, predictable, half-dead version of the man I married. You're blaming me for this? I'm telling you the truth. Something I should have done a long time ago. The truth, I said, that you've been hiding an affair with your stepmother for a year. She's not just my stepmother, she snapped. She was my friend before she married my dad. She actually listens. She makes me feel alive. And what am I? She looked at me with those eyes, cold, calculating, no longer pretending. You're the husband I outgrew. That moment was the bullet. Not the affair. Not the lies. That sentence. That calm, final sentence. Like I was an old sweater she decided didn't fit anymore. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I nodded once. Thank you. For what? For showing me who you really are. I walked to the bedroom, closed the door behind me, sat on the edge of the bed we used to share and stared at the wall. I heard her moving around the kitchen, heard the fridge open, close, drawers sliding. She didn't come after me. Of course she didn't. The truth was out. And now it was war. The next morning I woke up to the smell of bacon. She was cooking, humming, like the last 12 hours didn't happen. Like she hadn't confessed to something so bizarre and filthy it didn't even sound real when I replayed it in my head. The audacity was almost impressive. She didn't just lie. She curated a performance. Now she was back in costume, flipping breakfast like a sitcom wife, and I was supposed to sit down, eat, and pretend I hadn't seen her hands all over her stepmother in a house full of lies. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched her. She wore one of my t-shirts, like it was a joke. Like marking herself with me again would somehow make me forget what she'd said. You're the husband I outgrew. When she noticed me standing there, she gave me a look. That look. The one people give when they know they should be apologizing but choose smugness instead. Morning, she said. I made your favorite. I sat down at the table. She placed a plate in front of me like nothing had happened. You slept fine? I asked. She smirked. Didn't lose a minute. I nodded. Good. Because you'll need the energy. I booked a meeting with a lawyer. Silence. Then, what? You heard me. 10 a.m. I'm not waiting for this to rot. You want out? You'll get it. Fully. Clean break. She laughed. A short, cruel sound. You think this is about leaving you? You think I want your sympathy divorce and a clean break? You really don't get it. I stared at her. Then explain it. No. You explain it. She snapped. You walk around like you're this noble, wounded husband. Like your silence makes you a martyr. But you don't see me. You stopped seeing me a long time ago. I saw enough to know you've been sneaking off with your stepmother. For a full year. Oh, shut up, she snapped. You think that's the worst thing in this marriage? We've been dead for 2 years. You just didn't want to admit it. I stood. She stepped back, arms folded, eyes sharp. You chose to cheat. You chose her. That's not my fault. She made me feel alive, she shouted. She reminded me what it was like to feel desired. You were too busy pretending everything was fine to notice I was slipping away. And instead of talking to me, you, what, ran to your dad's wife? She's more of a woman than I ever was allowed to be with you. I stopped. What the hell does that mean? She stared at me, not blinking. You don't know how boring you are, do you? How routine. How a beige your love became. She lit a fire in me that you were too numb to smell. The way she said it, like it was a challenge, like she wanted me to react, to break something, to scream, made it worse. She didn't want reconciliation. She wanted a final act of destruction. A fire she could blame on me when the whole thing burned down. So I didn't give her that. I said, good, then go. Go be on fire with her. You think I'm afraid to leave? She said. No. I think you already left a long time ago. She stared at me, then grabbed her phone, walked straight to the bedroom, and slammed the door. I heard her calling someone. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but it didn't matter. I didn't need to hear what she said. I already knew. She was probably telling Sandra everything. Probably planning their next move. What they'd say to her father. How to spin it to friends. How to justify every lie they built like scaffolding around my life. But she didn't realize something yet. This wasn't over. She had secrets buried deeper than the affair. And I was about to dig. By Monday afternoon, the lawyer was just a formality. I wasn't going there for advice, I was going there to start the machine. Cold, mechanical, precise. No hesitation. I gave him everything. The timeline, the names, what I saw, what I heard. He asked if I had proof. I told him not yet, but I would. His advice? Stay calm, stay quiet, and gather everything. Because the second things got legal, she'd play dirty. He didn't know my wife. She'd already crossed every line. What she didn't know was how far I was willing to go now that I had nothing to lose. That night, I installed software on the shared laptop. Nothing crazy, just recovery tools. She wasn't careful. She thought deleting things made them disappear. But data leaves fingerprints, and I was going to find hers. 3 hours in, I found the first email. Subject line, I can't stop thinking about last weekend. From Sandra's Gmail account. Timestamp, 3 weeks ago. The message wasn't long. They knew better than to say too much. But there was enough. That night in the guest room, I've never felt more wanted. I dream about it every night. I wish I could tell your dad the truth. But you know he'd never survive it. That line hit harder than I expected. Not because it was another confirmation. I had that already. But because of how normal it sounded. How casual. Like they weren't destroying two families. Like it was just a complicated little game. The next file was a photo. One she thought she deleted. A selfie in a bathroom mirror, not ours. She was in a towel, biting her lip, phone in one hand. But what got me wasn't her. It was the second towel on the sink behind her. Monogrammed with an S. I kept digging. Voice memos. Calendar entries. One marked with just a red heart emoji. Scheduled every Thursday afternoon for the last 8 months. But the worst was the video. I didn't open it. I saw the thumbnail. I saw her face. I closed the laptop. I wasn't after revenge. Not yet. I was after truth. The full truth. I needed to know. How long had she been this person behind my back? Was this affair the first betrayal or just the most outrageous? So I started watching her. Quietly. I kept the mask on, same as she did. We made dinner. We watched shows. She laughed at things she didn't find funny. I pretended to care about a marriage that had already died. And she was getting comfortable. That's what made it worse. She thought I had accepted it. That I was just licking my wounds and preparing to fade out politely. But then came the twist. Friday afternoon. A knock at the door. I opened it and found her father standing there. He looked tense. His mouth was a tight line. His eyes didn't move. "Can I come in?" he said. I stepped aside. He didn't sit. Didn't ask for a drink. He looked around the apartment like it was foreign to him. Then he turned to me. "I need to ask you something," he said. "And I need you to be honest." My throat went dry. "What is it?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a piece of paper. Folded, worn. He handed it to me. It was a printed email. From Sandra. To him. She confessed everything. She wrote that she'd been emotionally entangled with his daughter for over a year. that it had started accidentally and turned into something she couldn't stop, that she was sorry, that she loved both of them in different, complicated ways. I looked up. "She sent this to you?" I asked. "Last night," he said, "after she packed a bag and left." My mind spun. "Left? You mean she's gone?" "She said she needed space. She said I wouldn't understand." He sat down then. For the first time, I saw him break. Not cry, but collapse inward, like something inside had snapped clean. "You knew, didn't you?" he asked. "That's why you looked like hell the last time I saw you." I didn't answer. He nodded. "I need you to tell me everything." So I did. I told him about the lake house, the phone call, the lies, the kiss on the porch, the night I followed her. I told him what I found on the laptop. I didn't soften it. I didn't skip the humiliating parts. He sat there in silence, jaw clenched, fists curled. When I finished, he stood up. "Where is she?" he asked. "She's at work, supposedly." He didn't wait. He turned and walked out the door without another word. I didn't know what he was going to do, but for the first time since this nightmare started, I wasn't the only one who wanted answers. And now there was a second fire starting that I don't know what I expected from that Friday night. Maybe screaming, maybe silence. But what I didn't expect was the three of them walking back into my apartment together. It was around 7 p.m. I was sitting at the kitchen table, rereading the email Sandra had sent to her husband, my father-in-law, trying to make sense of the wording, the tone, the way she tried to frame it as some tragic love triangle instead of the twisted betrayal it was. Then I heard the key in the lock. The door opened. She walked in first. My wife, face tight, lips pressed flat. Behind her was her father, face like stone, and then, unbelievably, Sandra, hair tied back, wearing sunglasses indoors like this was an airport and not the scene of a collapse. The room turned thick. Nobody spoke. My wife looked at me like I was the one who needed to explain something. Sandra wouldn't meet my eyes. Her father shut the door slowly, like he knew what was about to happen would echo for the rest of our lives. "I told them," he said simply. "I figured," I replied. My wife exhaled hard, then threw her purse on the floor like it had personally offended her. "This is insane," she said. "No," I said. "You're insane. I'm not doing this," she snapped, turning to her father. "You dragged her here? To his place? This isn't a courtroom." "Then tell the truth," he said quietly. "Here, in front of both of us." She spun to Sandra. "You wrote that letter. Why?" Sandra removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were red, not from crying. From exhaustion, maybe, or regret. "I was trying to take responsibility," Sandra said. "You refused to." "Oh, that's rich," my wife hissed. "You wanted this just as much as I did. Don't pretend you're the victim now." "This isn't about who wanted it more," I interrupted. "It's about the fact that neither of you cared who got destroyed in the process." My wife turned back to me. "You act like we murdered someone." "No," I said. "You just murdered trust, family, vows, everything that held our lives together. You set fire to it in secret and smiled in my face while it burned." "You're being dramatic," her father cut in. "No, you are. You destroyed a marriage, a family, and now you're standing here acting like we're all just being too emotional about it." She glared at him. "Don't talk to me like I'm a child. Then stop acting like one." Sandra finally spoke again. "We should go. This was a mistake." "No," I said. "You stay. You listen. Because I want every word of this burned into your memory." I stood. The air in the room shifted. My wife stepped back, not out of fear, but because she finally realized I wasn't playing her game anymore. "You cheated. For a year. You lied. Repeatedly. You let me make dinner for you, take care of your sick father, plan anniversaries, while you were sneaking off with her. And the worst part? You weren't even sorry. You were arrogant." "I told you," she said, voice tight. "It wasn't about hurting you. It was exclusively about hurting me." Sandra stepped forward. "I tried to stop it." "Don't," I snapped. "Don't try to play noble now. You both dragged this into the dirt and laughed about it behind closed doors. You deserve each other." My wife's face twisted. "You think I care what you think now?" "No," I said. "I think you care that everyone knows." I opened the drawer, pulled out a folder. I had already printed the emails, screenshots, timestamps. I handed it to her father. I'm filing for divorce. She's already been served. She just doesn't know it yet. And I thought you'd like to keep this for the custody lawyers. What custody lawyers? My wife asked, blinking. Her father looked at her like she was a stranger. Sandra and I have guardianship of your sister's kids. Or did you forget that while you were too busy playing house with your stepmother? That was the first time I saw it. The crack, the flicker of panic, passed quickly, but it was there. Sandra stepped toward the door. We're leaving. Take her, her father said. But don't come back to my house. Not until I understand who you really are. You can't mean that, Sandra said. He didn't answer. They left in silence. Not a goodbye, not a glance back. My wife grabbed her bag, slammed the door hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. Then it was just me and her father. He sat down slowly. She's not who I thought she was, he said. Neither was Sandra. We didn't say anything else for a while. Just sat in the wreckage of two families. Finally, he stood. If you ever need anything, he said, I owe you more than I can put into words. Then he left too. And I sat in that apartment, alone, finally, completely not broken. Just wide awake. There's a strange calm that follows after the ground drops out from under you. Not peace, not healing, just a kind of hollow clarity. Like waking up in a room stripped of everything familiar. That was my life now. The apartment felt cavernous. Every corner echoed. The couch where she lied to me. The bathroom mirror where she smiled with that other face on. Even the kitchen faucet seemed quieter, like it was afraid to interrupt the silence. But this wasn't the end. Not even close. I hadn't spoken to her since the confrontation. I didn't want to, but she'd left things behind, not by accident. Her coat, her perfume bottle, a pair of shoes she hated, left by the door like she wanted to haunt the place even after she was gone. And then came the call. Unknown number. I let it ring 3 times, picked up out of instinct. Her voice, not frantic, not apologetic. Cool, coiled. We need to talk. No, we don't. You think this is over? I know it is. She laughed. Not the fake one this time, something brittle, sharp. You don't get to rewrite history, you know. You weren't perfect. Neither were you. But I didn't set fire to the foundation. I made a mistake, she said. And I could hear the lie rising in her throat before she said it. But you... God. You make everything so dramatic. Like you were some saint. Say what you want. You already lost. She hesitated. Then she said, I'm pregnant. I didn't speak. She filled the silence fast. Like she'd been waiting to use this card. I found out last week. I wasn't going to tell you until I was sure. But I am now. It's yours. Everything went white for a second. Just static. You're lying, I said. I'm not. You're trying to manipulate me. You think I'd lie about that? Yes. Without blinking. She didn't deny it. Just exhaled. You can take a test. Paternity test. I'll do it. But you are going to talk to me. We have a connection now. Whether you like it or not. I hung up. No yelling. No threats. Just a cold end to a conversation that should never have happened. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't eat. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, every muscle in my body locked. My mind cycled through it. Was she bluffing? Was she confused? Or was this a new level of cruelty? Next morning, I called the lawyer. Told him everything. His voice dropped a notch. If she's lying, we'll expose it. If she's not, we build a custody wall around that child so strong she'll have to claw her way through it to even visit. Either way, we stay ahead. That's when I knew I had to dig again. Not for revenge. For proof. She had been careless before. And she would be again. I went to our shared cloud account. Buried deep in a forgotten folder were voice memos. She used to record grocery lists, reminders, little notes. And one that didn't belong. Timestamped 2 weeks ago. It was her. Whispering. I'm not stupid. If it happens, I'll say it's his. He'll believe it. He always does. A second voice. Sandra's. And if he wants a test? Then I'll disappear before it happens. Or say I lost it. Whatever. He'll never know. I stared at my screen so long I forgot to blink. It was a game to her. A tactic. A story she could tell when she needed control again. copied the file, saved it in 5 different places, sent it to my lawyer, and I realized something. She wasn't done trying to destroy me, but now I was ready to burn the bridge with her name on it. 3 days passed before she showed up in person again. No warning, just a knock at the door, sharp and fast. The kind of knock you don't ignore, not because it's urgent, but because it sounds like trouble. I opened the door slowly. There she was. No makeup, hair up like she hadn't tried. But I knew better. She always tried. This was the natural look she wore when she wanted to seem vulnerable. When she wanted to worm her way back into someone's sympathy by pretending to be human again. I didn't step aside. "You're not invited," I said. "I don't care," she replied. She pushed past me, walked into the living room, and turned to face me like she still lived there, like this was still her stage. "You listened to the recording." I said nothing. Her jaw clenched. "It was out of context. You whispered to your stepmother that if you got pregnant, you'd lie to me about it. That's not context. That's a plan." She sat down on the arm of the couch, arms folded. Her eyes scanned the room like she was trying to find the version of her life that still existed here. "I panicked," she said finally. "I was emotional. I didn't mean it." "Then why save it? Why record it at all?" She shrugged. "I was venting." I walked over to the table, opened my laptop, and hit play. Her voice filled the room again. "If it happens, I'll say it's his. He'll believe it. He always does." I paused it, turned to face her. "That doesn't sound like panic. That sounds like a chess move." She didn't flinch. "You think you know everything, but you don't know what it's like to need control. To need one thing, anything, that's still yours when everything else is falling apart. So you lied to control me? I wanted to keep you close, for a little while longer, until I figured things out." "You already figured them out," I said. "You chose Sandra. You chose this whole twisted mess. You didn't lose control, you surrendered to it." She stood. "You're so goddamn righteous. Like you didn't make mistakes too. I didn't lie for a year. I didn't fake a pregnancy to manipulate someone into staying married." She didn't answer. Then, "I'm not pregnant." I stared at her. "What?" "I never was. I thought I might be. I told you because I needed leverage." "Leverage," I repeated. "Like I'm some business deal you're trying to negotiate. You don't understand how scared I was." "No, I understand exactly. You were scared of being irrelevant, scared of being exposed. And now that the game's up, you're here to try and twist the ending." She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the knob. "You know what the worst part is?" she said without turning. "You're not even angry enough. You're just done. That's the part one didn't expect." I didn't move. "That's because the part of me that loved you, that believed you, died the night I saw you kiss her." She opened the door slowly. Then, before stepping out, she looked back and whispered, "I hope you never get over it." And that was it. The last honest thing she ever said to me. She wanted to be unforgettable, even if it meant being the wound that never healed. But I had no intention of bleeding for her any longer. I locked the door behind her, not out of fear, out of relief. And then I made the next call, because it was time to make her unforgettable too. In court.by the following week, every thread had been pulled. What started as whispers and shadows was now a neatly organized case file. The lawyer had everything. Her false pregnancy claim, the recorded conversation, digital traces of the affair, even her father's written statement confirming Sandra's confession. It was all there, and the best part? She still didn't know how deep I'd cut into her story. We filed for divorce citing emotional cruelty and deliberate fraud. That alone would nuke her chances at any form of spousal support. But we didn't stop there. We also filed a formal complaint through her workplace's HR, not out of vengeance, but because some of her weekend conferences were paid for by her company. And it turned out, she'd been expensing some of those little rendezvous with Sandra. Professional misconduct. She was cornered. But the final nail came not from me, not from the lawyer, but from someone I hadn't expected to hear from at all. Sandra's ex-husband. He emailed me, short and to the point. "Heard what happened. You're not the first life they've wrecked. Sandra did the same thing to my family 10 years ago. Thought you might like to see this." Attached was a photo. Same eyes. Same smirk. A woman in her 30s. Not my wife, someone else. Standing next to Sandra, hand around her waist, pressed close in that unmistakable way. A woman he identified as his niece. History repeating itself. I forwarded the email to my lawyer without a second thought. Patterns matter in court. They show intent. They paint character. This wasn't some romantic confusion. This was Sandra's pattern. And now my soon-to-be ex was just another entry in her hall of destruction. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She found out about the filing 3 days later. I was in the hallway of our building when I saw her get the envelope from the courier. She opened it right there, flipping through the pages, scanning quickly, then slower, like she thought reading it again might make it vanish. She looked up and saw me watching. Her mouth opened, then closed. No words, just a look, a mix of hatred and something else. Maybe fear, maybe disbelief that I'd actually pulled the trigger. I walked past her, didn't stop, didn't flinch. Back inside, I poured a glass of water and waited for the fallout. It didn't take long. That night, her father called. He'd kicked Sandra out, changed the locks, froze their joint accounts, and he'd already retained his own legal team. I could hear the exhaustion in his voice, the disillusionment. He thanked me again, said I'd helped him rip off a mask he never realized was there. But then he said something that stuck. You know, part of me wants to hate you for not warning me sooner. I understood that. I did. But I had my own storm to survive. Then came the text from her. My wife. Simple. No punctuation. You win. I stared at it. No anger. No apology. Just that pathetic little whisper of surrender from a woman who thought she'd always have control. I didn't respond, because this wasn't about winning. This was about getting my life back. And soon I'd have it scorched, yes, but mine again. The divorce finalized on a Monday. There was no dramatic court scene. No fireworks. Just a judge with tired eyes and a stack of papers. My lawyer did the talking. She didn't even show up. Sent her attorney instead. Said she was too emotionally compromised to appear in person. I almost laughed when I heard that. Emotionally compromised. That woman had the heart of a dealer, and I was just a card she tried to bluff with. The decree was swift. No spousal support. No shared assets beyond what we already split. The judge even added a statement acknowledging her pattern of deceit and manipulation, citing the pregnancy lie, the affair with her stepmother, and the attempted emotional coercion. It was clinical, clean, brutal. Everything she never imagined would be written about her in official ink. I left the courthouse alone. No crowd, no cheering, just the rustling sound of pages closing behind me. I drove to the lake house. Her father had signed it over to me as part of his apology. A peace offering, he called it, though we both knew it was a monument to the moment everything cracked open. It was quiet there, the kind of quiet that used to feel romantic and now just felt earned. I stood on the porch, the one where I first heard her whisper Sandra's name. It felt like standing in the jaws of the past, except this time I wasn't the prey. I went inside. The fireplace hadn't been lit since that weekend. Dust coated the shelves, cobwebs stretched across corners. But something about it felt right, unfinished, honest, like the house had waited for me to come back and reclaim the truth that was stolen here. I opened a bottle of scotch I'd been saving. One she didn't like, which suddenly made it taste better. I poured one glass, sat down on the couch, and stared at the empty hearth. And then, for the first time in months, I allowed myself to breathe. Not just physically, I mean really breathe. No tension in the chest. No calculations. No second-guessing every word or wondering what lies were dancing behind her eyes. The war was over. But what I realized sitting there, drink in hand, alone in a house built for two, was that the scars didn't disappear just because the battle ends. They stay. As reminders. As warnings. So here's what I learned. If you feel like something's off, it probably is. Trust isn't a prize, it's a mirror. Once it cracks, you can't pretend the reflection is the same. People don't accidentally betray you for a year. That's not confusion. That's a campaign. And never underestimate how far someone will go to protect a lie they built their identity around. She didn't just cheat. She constructed a different version of herself and tried to convince me it was real, until the day I saw the stitching and ripped it apart. So if you're reading this, if you're suspicious, doubting, feeling gaslit, but still clinging to the fantasy of who you thought they were, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you you're not crazy. You're not weak. And walking away isn't losing. Sometimes it's the only way to win. That was my story. That was our story, the one she never wanted told. And now it's finished.